Tonight, a Saskatchewan man dies fighting to protect Ukraine. And many of you can expect a $500 check from the provincial government soon. The Saskatchewan NDP wants your kids to get them too.
That kids be included as well with rebates, that they not be excluded as they currently are.
Plus,
Why do you guys
hitting the TV screen for team practice, gaming finds its place at a Regina high school.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Tuesday, November 8th. CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. A Saskatchewan man has died during his voluntary military service in Ukraine. As Sam Sampson reports, he leaves behind a loving family and a grieving community.
Joseph Hildebrand was a Canadian Armed Forces veteran, volunteering to help Ukrainians fight the Russian invasion. His spouse will remember him as the best man she's ever known.
I don't know how to explain it. Like the kindest soul, always wanting to help people no matter what. The hardest working man. He literally died doing exactly what he was meant to do.
Hildebrand left in June to voluntarily fight Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The 33-year-old had already done 2 tours in Afghanistan. He was a farmer from Herbert, about 200 kilometers west of Regina. When he decided to go to Ukraine, he left behind his spouse, Carissa, and their 13-year-old daughter, Jovi.
He literally couldn't handle what was going on and wanted to help.
What did you think of that decision?
Honest. I struggled with it, and this is exactly why.
In an email, Premier Scott Moe calls Hildebrand a true Saskatchewan hero. He also says Hildebrand's death being so close to Remembrance Day is a reminder of, quote, the cost paid by those who bravely step forward to defend our freedoms. Hildebrand's spouse, Carissa, says she got a call around 7:40 on Monday morning. Hildebrand's Ukrainian colleagues told her he died in an attack after he went back to save members of his crew. Hildebrand reportedly went on a mission near the besieged eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut in the Donetsk region. Russian forces have intensified attacks on the city over the past several days. It's unclear how he died, but his family was told most of the men on the mission were also killed. Hildebrand's family will remember him as a great farmer and a great man.
He's fairly quiet. He's a good guy, yeah. He always liked hunting and stuff like that. And, yeah, worked pretty hard on the farms and stuff.
For now, the family is waiting for more answers and planning how they'll get here, the land just behind Hildebrand's farm, where they'll spread his ashes. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Regina.
Elsewhere in Saskatchewan, another family is grieving. Megan Gallagher's remains have been positively identified more than 2 years after her disappearance. The remains were found at the end of September near St. Louis. 30-year-old Gallagher was last seen leaving her friend's house in Saskatoon in 2020. Investigators believe she was killed in Saskatoon, then her body was taken to the area where her remains were found. 8 people have been charged in connection with her disappearance. Next week, the provincial government will mail out $500 checks to most adults in the province. But the opposition NDP says those checks should also go to everyone under the age of 18. CBC's Adam Hunter has the story.
In August, the government announced it would be sending out $500 affordability checks to anyone 18 and older who had filed their income tax. They based the plan on improving government revenues. Now, next week, 900,000 checks will go out at a cost of $450 million. Today, opposition leader Carla Beck called on the government to include minors in the check program.
Does the Premier actually think that a household with 2 adults deserves more support than a single parent with 3 children?
The opposition estimates that including children will cost about $150 million. Opposition finance critic Trent Wotherspoon says parents could use the money.
When you look at the cost of groceries, the cost of fuel, the cost of raising children, the cost of clothing, all the additional costs that are coming at them right now as well by way of heating and power, Saskatchewan families need fair relief on this front.
In May, Wotherspoon and the NDP pitched hiking resource royalty by 1%. That revenue would be used to give every resident $105. The Minister of Finance says the government's plan amounts to more money in people's pockets. Donna Harpower says the government considered including children in the cheque program but decided against it, in part because it was more complicated.
It was part of the discussion. We decided that this was a very quick and easy way to access a solid database of who this would go to. And that was a decision made at that time, and I stick with that decision.
Harpower says the affordability checks were based on revenue projections. She says if those projections remain the same, it's unlikely that more checks will be sent out in the future. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
Alongside relief checks, you might not expect dinosaurs to be a hot topic in the provincial legislature, but the NDP is questioning why the Ministry of Education allowed Christian schools to teach students that dinosaurs walked the earth with humans. The NDP shared images of a biology textbook. It teaches children that, quote, biblical and scientific evidence tend to support the idea that men and dinosaurs existed at the same time. Humans' ancestors actually came along more than 60 million years after dinosaurs died out, according to a paleontologist at the Manitoba Museum. CBC News requested to speak to a dinosaur expert from the Royal Saskatchewan Museum, but the government denied that request. Instead, they referred the question to the Minister of Education. That prompted more questions from the NDP today.
It's one thing to not be able to condemn the course materials that suggest that humans and dinosaurs existed peacefully and maybe still do, but it's another thing entirely to block media from speaking to a scientist and to block that scientist from talking to media about the facts of evolution. Again, what exactly happened here, Mr. Speaker? How did a request to the RSM to speak to a scientist get shut down by the Minister of Education's office?
Certainly, if anybody wants to talk to a paleontologist, I don't have a problem with that.
So wasn't it, the government controlling the message in that way?
Really, it was just to get the message out from the Ministry of Education that the Saskatchewan curriculum is being taught. It might not have been taught at all times to former students of these particular schools, as they suggested last week.
Minister of Education says he doesn't have a problem with media interviewing a government-paid paleontologist. He also says old textbooks won't be banned, but only sections that conform to Saskatchewan curriculum should be used. New federal data shows that Muslim population in Saskatchewan has grown significantly over the past 2 decades. StatsCan found more than 25,000 Muslims now call Saskatchewan home. In 2001, only 2,200 Muslims were living in our province. A spokesperson for the Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Saskatoon says building mosques has helped attract more Muslims.
Mosque is a magnet. Once we have a built mosque, and we have missionaries here, everything is set up. People don't mind migrating because their kids are safe. They can associate themselves with the mosques.
Other factors drawing Muslims here may include a lower cost of living, immigration policies, and conflicts in the Middle East. Most Muslims live in the Regina and Saskatoon areas, but there are some in smaller communities like Prince Albert. Happy National Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Day. For one high school in Regina, tech is celebrated every day by playing video games. But there's more to this club than mashing buttons on a controller. Ethan Williams brings us the story.
These students at O'Neill High School have traded in their books for video game controllers. This is the school's esports club. Students spend each lunch hour battling one another in games like Super Smash Brothers or a soccer game played with vehicles that's called Rocket League.
It's a nice experience, I should say. But yeah, as you can hear from the background, it's very energetic in here. No, it's not.
Why do you guys have arguments, bro?
This isn't just a hobby. The students recently played in a tournament against other esports teams from across the country competing for prizes. Math teacher Dean Venderman oversees the club. He says esports mirrors traditional sports in terms of practice and preparation, and teaches valuable lessons.
Are you eating properly? Are you exercising? Because you'll be able to play the game better if you're doing that. How do you handle defeat? Like, how do you treat people and with respect online and all those type of things? See, this is the mic.
Venderman also uses some of the games to teach his classes. 15-year-old Annika Warren says the club welcomes kids who haven't found an activity that fits.
It was one of the clubs where I felt the most at home. Everybody from every age, every group, every grade can just be as one and just play video games.
They just did it better.
Esports may not be common in high schools, but it's taken off professionally in recent years. Total competition prize money can top tens of millions of dollars and attract hundreds of players.
Some games have more viewership online for their finals than most sporting events do. So it's been nice to see, I think, some of the normalcy of esports kind of start to arise.
Blake Zanadine has set up an esports organization in Saskatchewan. He's doing outreach with teachers later this month, and he's also behind an esports tournament at the Grey Cup Festival next week, which he hopes will attract more interest.
Oh yeah, 2 kills. That's not fair.
So what's next for O'Neill High School's esports club?
My idea would be to actually have a league, and then at the end have a tournament somewhere and host it at, like, say, the IMAX or maybe one of the movie theaters and have their games up on the big screen.
Until then, it's practice time. Ethan Williams, CBC News, Regina.
As holiday party invites start to go out, those behind Operation Red Nose have announced its return. The Safe Ride program was put on pause for 2 years because of the pandemic. Now it's making a comeback.
This is something near and dear to my heart. As a person who lost a family member because of someone else's decision to drive impaired. I lost my nephew. His name is JP, and that was 8 years ago. He was in grade 12, and he didn't have a chance to graduate. But don't be that person that takes that love and that joy from families and make that right decision.
A team of 3 volunteers will get you and your vehicle home safe. The program runs in Saskatoon, Prince Albert, the Battlefords, and Yorkton between November 25th and December 31st. It's free, but they also collect cash donations to support local youth and amateur sport initiatives. Whether armed with a big shovel or behind the wheel of a big plow, Regina kept digging out today as snow continued to come down. Snow routes are now in effect. That means if you see a blue sign with a white snowflake, parking is prohibited until tomorrow morning. Saskatoon, meanwhile, declared a snow event. That happens when more than 5 centimeters has fallen. So just how much snow hit the province in the last 24 hours? Ethan Williams will update us on snowfall totals and provide a full forecast after the break.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. 22 model clear out is on now.
Welcome back. Weather specialist Ethan Williams joins us now with the forecast. Ethan, the snow has come to an end, thankfully, for now, but we got a lot in a short period of time.
Yeah, that's right, Natasha, and we actually have some snowfall totals now from Environment Canada that we will take a look at. And it was Emma Lake once again coming in with the highest total, 16 centimeters. That's on top of a similar amount that you got yesterday. Same with Prince Albert. Saskatoon also getting quite a bit of heavy snow through the night last night. Assiniboia also picking up quite a bit. Regina, not quite as much, but still a good 5 centimeters or so. We have seen temperatures dropping across the province today as a cold front on the backside of that low pressure system has swung its way through. Now feeling close to minus 30 in some places in west central Saskatchewan. But look at that big temperature divide. Over on the eastern side of the province, it's still very nice in Yorkton, sitting at minus 4. Now, because we have that very extreme cold moving into the west central part of the province, we now have an extreme cold warning. It only impacts Lloydminster but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a couple of other regions get that extended to them as we go through the night tonight. Now, heading into, well, I guess I should just go back the other way there. Got a little trigger happy. We are expecting wind chills to drop close to minus 30 in Saskatoon and portions of west central Saskatchewan tonight. Frostbite possible in just minutes, so keep that in mind as you head through tomorrow. Now, this is a look at where temperatures were at 3 o'clock this afternoon in comparison to our normal highs this time of year. And I say 3 o'clock instead of when we hit our daytime highs, because a lot of places in western Saskatchewan, we hit our daytime highs early this morning, but as you can see, by 3 o'clock we were well below normal for this time of year. Eastern side of the province, you were basking in the warmth, so to speak. High pressure means we are going to continue to see those cold temperatures move in, and as we head through tomorrow, we are looking for wind speeds to be picking up. Afternoon wind speeds today looking like they're in the 40 to 50 kilometer an hour range, but as we head through the day tomorrow, we are looking for those speeds to increase somewhat. Even into Thursday, we could see a little bit of gusts in the southwest or southeastern corner of the province rather, but they shouldn't be anything too significant like we've seen over the past couple of days with that system moving in. Regina, we will continue to see those cold temperatures over the next few days, well below normal for this time of year. We are going to see a bit of a warm-up heading into the beginning of next week. And I say warm-up, and I mean maybe around minus 8 or 9 degrees or so. We are looking for the possibility of some snow flurries on Saturday and Monday. Keep in mind those overnight lows going to be quite cool these next couple of nights. And again, with a little bit of wind, that's really going to make wind chill values feel close to minus 25. We're not really used to that quite this early in the year. And Saskatoon, unfortunately, it's going to be even worse. We're going to get close to minus 30 for an overnight low tonight. That wind chill going to be feeling more into the minus 30s, and those temperatures are going to start to steadily increase going over the next few days here. But again, overnight low is going to be quite cool. We finally hit that warm up as we hit the weekend, just in time for a little bit more snowfall heading into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It looks like we are going to get some clearing out like we will see earlier in the week with this high pressure system, but overnight low is still going to be quite cool. So it looks like maybe a little bit of an improvement here in Natasha, but winter really staking its claim here in the province.
Thank you for that, Ethan.
You're welcome.
We get it. It's winter. And as if the snow wasn't enough, crews could be seen putting up Christmas decorations today in Saskatoon. The lights won't be turned on until after Remembrance Day this Friday, but since it takes a while to install all of the decorations, they had to get a head start. Maybe the festive vibe will help thaw my feelings about the seasons changing. We'll be back after the break. Today, in advance of Remembrance Day, people take the time to honor Indigenous veterans in particular. Members of Saskatchewan's Métis community braved a wintry day for a special ceremony in Batoche. The act of remembrance was read in Michif, Cree, and English.
They shall not grow old, as we are left to grow old. Age shall not worry them, nor the years condemn. As the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. We are now going to
12,000 Métis, First Nations, and Inuit served in the significant conflicts of the 20th century. At least 500 lost their lives. National Indigenous Veterans Day has been marked in Canada since 1994. Before that, the country had a long history of denying recognition and dignity for those who served. Many Indigenous veterans were buried in simple graves that were neglected and eventually forgotten. Now there is an effort to change that. CBC's Juanita Taylor has the story.
So it's Augustin is up here.
World War II Métis veteran Augustin Beaulieu is buried here in Lakeview Cemetery. Fresh snow making his military headstone stand out. This will be the first Indigenous Veterans Day where Beaulieu's grave is marked with a headstone. Before, it was a wooden cross that had rotted away, leaving his final resting place unmarked and unknown for years. It was through research done by Floyd Powder that Beaulieu's grave was found and restored.
A different division of Veterans Affairs is does monument and restoration that. I checked various sources and I couldn't find them. Find a grave identified that Augustine Beaulieu was buried there, but had that article of August Beaulieu being, shot in there. So I'm assuming it was him, but the city couldn't confirm, so I had to do more digging.
Beaulieu, originally from Fort Resolution, Northwest Territories, survived World War II. He served with the Canadian Scottish Regiment. Now his family is content.
And as a family, it's brought us, a lot of us together. And, we can always meet up and be able to go and visit his grave.
Once a week or every couple of weeks, depending on.
Powder, a veteran himself, volunteers his spare time with a federal program called the Last Post Fund.
So when I first was asked to check for a couple of headstones in the cemetery here in Yellowknife, I noticed that there was a number of bases for headstones, but no headstones in them. So to me, that struck me as being wrong.
In 2019, the Last Post Fund started focusing on Indigenous veterans, part of Canada's reconciliation process. To enlist in war, all Indigenous soldiers had to give up their treaty rights.
Indigenous veterans, when they retired from their service after World War I, II, and even Korea, they were denied benefits as their colleagues that they served on the battlefield with.
Métis pilot Robert Bobby Douglas served 2 tours during the Second World War.
All this water damage, permafrost.
He's buried in Bétrakon, Northwest Territories. His grave has also been marked with a military headstone.
They were the forgotten soldiers of Canada, forgotten veterans. And now those individuals are going to be recognized for their service. So when somebody walks through a cemetery like this, and they'll see that this person provided service for our country.
Douglas died before knowing he'd get recognized for his service to Canada. But just days before he died, he applied for and got his treaty status back.
But his life was that of a Métis. He worked hard with the Métis of the Northwest Territories and did everything as a Métis. But for 1 week, he was First Nation.
For Powder, he knows more research needs to be done, more graves to be restored.
One of the sad things about the overall cemetery is that where Augustine is buried, he was unmarked. There's a whole section in that middle plot there that are unmarked.
Unmarked for now. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Yellowknife.
And Ethan is back with another look at our frigid forecast.
Frigid indeed, Natasha. We're looking at temperatures tonight in much of the province dropping down into the minus double digits. Let's take a look at Regina's temperature at midnight tonight, where we will be at minus 10, looking for mostly cloudy conditions, and those winds still a little bit breezy out of the northwest, up to 35 kilometers an hour. Mostly cloudy conditions by the time we get to tomorrow morning. Wind chill is going to make it feel closer to minus 20, and the temperature will be around minus 14, but we will warm up only slightly to noon, and that cloud cover is going to build back in. Saskatoon temperatures even colder tonight, partly cloudy, minus 15 at midnight. But look at this wind chill as we head to 8 a.m. Feeling like minus 31 with mostly sunny conditions, and that sunshine should stick around, but it is still going to be quite cold through the day, Natasha.
Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
That's it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/Sask, or you can subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Glenn Reed is back with more local news at 11. Thanks for watching.